as I mentioned before, my name is Elliot, and I am one of your co-bosses here for Nerd Nite Lawrence, and I am here to try to convince you, the good folk of Lawrence, Kansas, that Kansas is the best state in the country. Now, what inspired me to give this talk today? Well, you know, whenever I read up on a list of like how the states of the United States are ranked, whether it's, you know, per capita GDP or highest educational attainment or lowest poverty rate, for some reason, whenever the states are ranked, Kansas never seems to come out on top, and often in these lists, maybe it won't even be in the top half. But I disagree. I've lived in Lawrence here for now 5.5, close to 6 years, and I found that there's actually a lot to love about Kansas in general, and also specifically Lawrence, Kansas. So today, I'm going to be arguing that Kansas is actually the best state in the country. Now, this is going to be an interactive presentation. What do I mean by that? Well, you're going to see a bunch of these types of data visualizations throughout the presentation, particularly at the end. And this is actually called a choropleth, which basically just means that each state here has a different color, and the color's intensity is related to the value on the legend. And that's pretty much what the graph is. What makes this interactive is I have committed the ultimate taboo in data visualization. Right up there, no title. I have some charts, and you, the audience, when I point to you, you're going to tell me what they are showing us. But don't worry, I'm going to drop you some hints, and there's some other information on the slides that will help you when it comes to figuring out what these charts are showing us. First, there will be a category, and I promise to be a little more specific on future slides. Then there's also going, oh, something happened. That was not supposed to happen. Oh, there it goes. Okay, guess we're back. Well, the laser pointer, I guess, is, I'll try not to use the laser pointer. There's also on the upper right-hand corner, there will be a tabular format, which has the same data underlying the choropleth visualization. It just gives you a different way to look at it. So basically, in short, I'm going to have some visualizations, and then when I point to the audience, it's going to be up to you to try to guess what they're showing us, keeping in mind that each visualization is going to further my point that Kansas is the best state in the country. One more thing. The metrics that I use to, make my point are arbitrary, to say the least. In fact, maybe arbitrary is not good enough to cut it. I have cherry-picked metrics that make Kansas look good. Yeah, basically what that means is I thought of a metric, I Googled it to see how Kansas ranked up compared to other states, and if it made Kansas look good, I kept it. If it made Kansas look bad, I never saw it. I mean, all the metrics I saw made Kansas look good. And, well, let's say in other words that my presentation is going to be replete with confirmation bias. But anyway, let's begin. Oh, and this is what this example would have been. This is just showing the population of the states. Alright, so the first thing I did was, when I was preparing my presentation, I decided to get a look at basically just Kansas by the numbers, just some general statistics about Kansas, and I figured that would be a good place to start. Now, when I looked at these data from the US Census Bureau, one question came to mind. And this was only about 20 seconds into my journey doing research. And it was just 20 seconds in that I fell into my first rabbit hole. The one question that came to my mind was, okay, so here's the population and the population per square mile. Well, given the size of Kansas and how many people live here, what is the smallest possible space that we could use to fit the entire population of Kansas? And I would not be able to sleep until I answered this question. So I'll walk you through this rabbit hole, and then I'll go through the exhibits, or the examples, in which I'm going to have you participate as the audience. So, Kansas is just going to be represented by this outline. Oh, sorry, that's Colorado. Here's Kansas. So Lawrence is over there in the northeast corner. I pointed at it, but the laser pointer is not working properly. That's okay. So basically, I figured the first way to answer my question of how small a space can we get away with in order to fit the entire population of Kansas was to look at a real-life example. So I was thinking of what US cities have an approximate population to that of Kansas. Remember, Kansas' population is about 2.9 million. Does anyone know a city in the United States with a population close to 2.9 million? Anybody? Little too small. Little too big. Also a little bit too small. Bingo. Chicago, our nation's third largest city, has a population of approximately 2.7 million and a land area of approximately 235 square miles. So, if this is a map showing the rough area of Kansas, Chicago overlaid it would look something like this. They're very efficient. But now, as much as I love Chicago, you know, they're very good, they're a very dense city, which for the purposes of my question is a good thing. They have a lot of things that are kind of, you know, unnecessary. Things like houses and bathrooms, parks and restaurants. Things that are going to make it difficult to just really pack everyone in like sardines, getting everyone into as small an area as possible. So, in order to do a little bit better than Chicago, I decided to turn to one of my favorite subjects, mathematics. We're going to start with a circle. Now this circle is actually going to represent a hula hoop that I will be handing out to every single resident of Kansas. And this is going to be important. The hula hoop is going to have a diameter of about 40 inches. So what's going to happen is everyone's going to take their hula hoop, put it on the ground, and we're going to put them all together. So first person puts their hula hoop on the ground. A few more follow. This is about 16 hula hoops. And we'll be arranging them in a pattern like so. And pushing them together until each hula hoop is touching. And then we're going to do this until every single person in Kansas has put down their hula hoop in this type of square arrangement. Now, how many hula hoops are there going to be in each row and column? Well, if you take the square root of the population of Kansas, you'll get about 1,714 and change. In other words, 1,714 rows and columns of hula hoops. There's a little bit left over, so we're going to have an extra row with 84 hula hoops or 84 circles in it. Then we're going to do a little bit of dimensional analysis to figure out exactly how much of a square, how much of area this is going to take in terms of square miles. So basically we're just going from hula hoops of 40 inches in diameter to how many square miles this is going to take up. And then we're going to have our answer. So, just by a show of hands, who thinks that we could fit the entire population of Kansas in Lawrence, in the city limits of Lawrence? Okay. We've got some hands raised. Okay. No, this is not New York City. Who thinks that we can fit the entire population in Marcellus? Every room in Marcellus. We're not that cool either. It turns out it's somewhere in between. The area is going to take that we would need to fit the entire population of Kansas is approximately 1.1709 square miles. Just to put this in perspective, according to KU's Wikipedia page, the campus of KU is somewhere in the realm of 1.5 to 2 square miles. So it happens to be just about the right size to fit the entire population of Kansas with a little bit of room left over to breathe, but not that much room. Now, for those of you who are in the crowd thinking, well, I didn't like how you put all those hula hoops or all those people together. Well, you'd be right, because the way I packed it was not terribly efficient. I mean, take a look at these circles and how they were packed in my example. There are a lot of gaps in between these circles. We could do better. It turns out that the most efficient way, or the way you can most densely pack circles, is by using what's known as the hexagonal packing arrangement. Why is it called hexagonal? Well, let's highlight one of the circles to show you why. We'll highlight one of the circles. Notice that this yellow circle is touching 6 other circles adjacent to it. If you put a dot in the middle of each of those 6 circles and you play connect the dots, you get a hexagon. It turns out that this arrangement is actually the most efficient way to pack circles, and the efficiency rate is pretty high. It's something a little bit north of 90%. So, this would allow us to pack the entire population of Kansas into an even smaller area. But how much smaller? I'm going to leave that as an exercise for the audience to solve. I was a little too lazy to rework the numbers myself. So if you do find the answer, please do come and let me know after the show, because I'd love to know the answer. Okay, now we're going to get into the interactive portion of the talk. So, as I mentioned before, I'm going to have a few of these choropleth maps up on the board, and I do not have the title or data source revealed. Instead, it's going to be up to you to guess it. But I will offer you a few hints to help you along the way. But before I do offer hints, does anyone want to really knock it out of the park? Do you think they know what this data visualization is showing, keeping in mind you have a category, cinema, and you also have values listed here, Kansas having a value of 20, and all the other states, 0. Does anyone have an idea? I'd be surprised if anyone can get it at this state, but I just want to give someone a chance in case they know. You can raise your hand or shout it out. No. I'd be surprised if some of these other states, especially in the South, wouldn't be able to do that though. I will offer a clue. When it comes to cinema, what is the one movie that everybody associates with Kansas? You know, someone's got to say it. Yes. Well, I definitely heard it from a few people. The Wizard of Oz, right? All right. So the Wizard of Oz, in the context of the Wizard of Oz, what could something that be? What kind of metric could I use where Kansas would have a non-zero value, but every other state in the union would have a value of 0?
How many times they said the word Kansas in that movie?
That's actually kind of close. It's not exact, but it's actually kind of close. I'll give you the answer here. It's the amount of screen time in The Wizard of Oz in minutes. I actually rented the movie and watched it so I could count it, just time it to see how long Dorothy and Toto were in Kansas, 20 minutes, and how long they were in Oz. That's unfortunately wasn't able to be shown on the map. It turned out that they were in Oz for about 80 minutes. Okay, the second map. This one has to do with agriculture. Here I've listed states, just a select few states, the top 5. Kansas has a value of 7,300, North Dakota, Montana, Texas, and Oklahoma to follow. So, the category being agriculture. Does anyone, before I reveal any hints, want to take a go at this one?
Yeah.
Cows per square mile.
If you combine those, actually, both of you were really close. If you combine those, you basically have it. So, over here, bushels of wheat. Over here, I heard something like square miles of cattle or something. So if you take those square miles and bushels of wheat, that's essentially what you have. Here, it's actually the area used to grow wheat by state. But instead of square miles, we're talking about thousands of acres. Here, Kansas is the breadbasket of the world. We are literally leading the nation in wheat production. Weed, not weed. And unfortunately. So Kansas leading the pack of a very essential food group, something that pretty much everyone eats or uses to some capacity, and we are number 1. Okay, the third of my core visualizations. This one, you're definitely going to want to take a look at which states are darker in color, or in other words, at higher values, and where they are in relation to one another. So, the category here is infrastructure. The values go from 0 to 275. Once again, Kansas leading the pack with a value of 275. 9 other states have non-zero values. And these are the only 10 states that have non-zero values. Does anyone want to take a guess? Yeah, I-70. But here's the thing. Initially, you're correct. I wanted to do miles for I-70. But there was one problem. That state over there, I point to it with my laser pointer. Colorado has us beat out by about 25 miles when it comes to miles of I-70. I thought of doing that, but I thought that wouldn't be fair to Colorado. So instead, I hunted down a metric that would put Kansas on top for I-70. The total number of exits. If you count both eastbound and westbound, Kansas has the most I-70 exits of any state in the country. And I'm really proud of that. You know why? Because everyone always says Kansas is a flyover state. But clearly, Kansas is not a drive-through state. We have more exits on the I-70 than any state in the country, which clearly shows there's a lot of cool things to see and do in Kansas. Kansas is number one. Alrighty, so we have one more data visualization, one more Coral Plus for you. So this time, the category here is sports. Kansas is far and away in the lead with a value of 100. No other state has a value higher than 10. Just a little bit more background on this particular data visualization. For this one, I use Google Trends. Have people here used Google Trends before? If you're not aware of it, it's basically a service that Google provides where you can look up how popular different types of searches are in different countries or different categories or across the world. Here, we're showing a relative search value, or a relative proportion of searches for a term that I picked. So Kansas searched for this term more often relative to all other queries. And all the other states search for it relatively less often. So Kansas searched for it, say, 20% of all queries, and then Missouri searched for it 2%, or 1/10 of that value. That's why it goes from 100 to 10. So, in the context of sports, what search term do you think I used in order to generate this data visualization? There you have it. The search interest for Jayhawk up here, folks, courtesy of Google Trends and the relative proportion of searches. You guys are on a roll. Congratulations. All right. Anyway, folks, that's all I have for you. I just wanted to show you that Kansas is the number one state in the country. But even if I didn't completely convince you of that, hopefully I did at least convince you that Kansas, despite what other people may say, is actually a really cool place, a beautiful place to live, and that we're all really lucky to live here. If nothing else, tap your heels 3 times, because, well, there's no place like home. Thank you.